So today is the first ever episode on our Falcon FX show. It's going to be once a month and we're going to be going over the market as a whole, giving you insight into our students, giving you some mindset tips.
Hello guys and girls, and welcome back to another episode on the Falcon.
The whole point of you coming to this channel is knowing that you're getting the education, you're getting the value, tuning in. We can already see how much that you're learning, how much you're taking away, and we have a lot packed in this episode. So again, just recapping the month, going over trading the month, really understanding what it means.
The monthly show is back. Nah, not that one. The monthly show is back. The monthly show is back. The monthly show is back. That's too over the top. The monthly show is back. Nah, definitely not. Right, last try. The monthly show is back. So as you can see, the show is back. We've done this before, but this time we're coming back even better. It's going to follow a very similar structure, but we're going to be a bit more creative with it. It's not going to be as rigid. As you know, there's so many things happening in the financial markets. We're going to be flexible with that and give you guys the most up-to-date knowledge, whether it's just things that you need to be in the loop about. It could be something to do with prop firms, things you need to be aware of, changes that are happening in the industry. Of course, trades. Going over trade of the month, giving you a few insights from a technical perspective, mindset, psychology, all of the good stuff that's going to help you on your trading journey. But our goal is to make this the best show possible, and the only way that we do that is to get feedback from you guys. So for the first couple of shows, we are going to be taking on a lot of feedback, listening to what you got to say, and be improving the show every step of the way. Super excited. The show is back. It's been highly requested, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. So we just wrapped up Monk Mode Month. Now I wanted to talk about this in this show because I think this could serve a lot of benefit for you guys moving forward. We have seen tremendous breakthroughs within the community this particular month.
Tell you what I'm looking forward to in Q4, Monk Mode Month. You would know every single time we have done Monk Mode Month in Falcon, we have seen a tremendous breakthrough in people's results. Every single time, whether that be someone breaking through to consistency for the very first time, whether that be someone scaling up on their funding and they finally break through that barrier, hit six figures or multiple six figures every single time.
And one of the main reasons for that is environment. When you're in the right environment, and that's the thing that I want you to take away from this, is what environment are you in right now and how much are you missing out on by not being around the right people? Why do you think people thrive within a community? People ask me all the time, they say, Mark, am I going to benefit from being in the community? I've got a strategy where I trade similar to you. And then what happens when they get involved, their results skyrocket. Do not underestimate the power of being around the right people. I'm sure you guys and girls have experienced this even on a small level. When you suddenly get around, you know, a good few positive people and you tend to find your life just improves. Imagine that on a more concentrated scale where everyone is pushing themselves to the limit, whether it is ice baths, face plunge, going for runs, pushing themselves physically, mentally, spiritually, you name it, really putting in the work when it comes to trading. You've got people doing deep sessions, analyzing their missed trades, their losses, their wins, really digging into the finer details that could be the catalyst that they break through technically. They're fusing that together with their mindset as well. They're getting up super early, making sure they get it done. Even if it's late at night, they're still managing to finish their tasks. Why? Because it's about doing something really difficult for a decent period of time, and it has a long-lasting effect for the rest of your life. Now, when you start looking at that, thinking, well, one Monk Mode Month might not transform your whole life forever, but it's a start. It's a start in the right direction to start building those strong habits. Now, I know for a fact, people that done Monk Mode Month in October would have set themselves up to have a rest of a phenomenal 2024. You can't get to the end of this month, and now we're in November, and not have now more momentum, more drive, more focus, which is going to be a direct correlation to better results, more money, and more so just moving forward with whatever you want to achieve when it comes to your trading journey. So super pleased with that. We've done Monk Mode Month previously, but this one was just so much more intense. There's been a direct correlation between more results. So super proud of the community. They've absolutely crushed it. And I know now there are so many individuals that I could pick out and go, because of this momentum is going to carry them through to the rest of the year, and they'll be in a completely different position. And for those of you that didn't participate in Monk Mode Month, you still have time. Why don't you make it now November, that you build the habits now? You cannot afford to wait to get to the end of November, start of December, and be in the same position. So for trade of the month in this show, we're going to be going over Euro CAD. Now this was a H4 mastery trade. Now we have a double recap here actually, because we've got a lower time frame position that happened today. I didn't personally catch this one. We've had such a phenomenal month. I've caught so many beautiful positions. This one was a lovely one on a lower time frame. So this is kind of a bonus to the trade of the month, if you like, because it's on the same pair, so why not? So this was a beautiful H4 mastery trade. And although this one only made 3% over, this one would be running about 7 now. You could literally close it because the volume is there. However, I like this one better because it's not always about the return. What really makes trade of the month? It's not always the biggest return, because you could have a super risky, non-repeatable trade that happens to just win. Just because it makes more return doesn't mean it's a better trade. The mechanics behind this position was phenomenal. So if you look at this on the daily time frame, you've got your larger structure that fails to break above this particular area. And why is this area important? Because there's a lot of volume here. You can see the selling that we had last time. You've got to ask yourself, who moves the market there? That's not retail, is it? So if you know bigger institutions and funds are moving the market here, naturally, when we start to see price tap into those areas, those are the beautiful trades. This is where we can start to play the ranges. And the fact that we started to reject off of this on the higher time frame showed me that this 1, this 2, this 3 failed to break above to start to fill these areas and fill these gaps. So that just showed me this would be a great opportunity for us to start to look into the lower time frames that are still high enough to carry some weight to play the overall range. So target area was down here. This was our original target area. Now, generally speaking, you're going to fill 90%-ish of a range. So when you look at this from a fib point of view, if we just measure that, so close enough, you know, about 85, 86%. We hit the 90% in the end, but I'm talking about the first part of the run. You're going to feel roughly around 90%. Now, conveniently, we tapped to 90 and went. Like, that's statistical. There's, again, I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but there's a reason why that happens. That can maybe be in a later episode. But for those of you that have Falcon mechanics, you'll understand that on a deeper level. But what did I like about this one? I like this one because you've got follow through everywhere. You've got higher time frame. Look at the volume. So we've tapped that, we've moved above, you've got consistent follow through, and here is the trade. So all we're now looking at is why this makes up such a high quality position. Well, count the hours. These are 4-hour candles here, right? So you've got your 2 4-hour candles, fine. You've got the trade idea set in, and then you've got 1, 2, 3. So you've got 4 in total until the actual trade itself. Now, there was a lower time frame entry as well, but I'm just purely focusing on the 4-hour at this point. You've essentially got nearly a whole day of price action. Very difficult for you to tell me, Mark, I didn't get the trade because I missed the trade. No, you miss trades on the lower time frame. It's very rare that you miss trades like this. Now, for some of you that are still early to H4 mastery, of course, there's going to be a few missed positions here and there because you don't understand it yet. That's absolutely okay. Maybe you don't understand each trade. You have to shadow trade a few. That's absolutely okay as well. I would expect by middle of December, it would be more than enough time for anyone in the community that's going through H4 Mastery. They'll have this on lock. This will be part of their trading plan. They'll be trading these trades flawlessly. So what I like about this one is that it was just effortless in terms of waiting. And the psychological part about it was I could see how many people would make errors. Like even after the break of that structure, you would get people that are trapped into different ways of trading, start getting long, thinking this is a retest, then they get trapped into that trade, then it sells off, then they start chasing that. Like I can see it even just from a psychological point of view, the psychological game that happens within these structures. So this was more about patience, understanding the high time frame narrative, looking at the structures, seeing where the volume is. Such a simple trade. So even though it was only a 3-to-1, it was the whole picture of the trade. So really happy with that. Management was really smooth as well because super follow through. And yes, I could have maybe squeezed a little bit more, but I don't really care. It's still a 3-to-1. It still meets the criteria. Things to be aware of as well. Do you know what? We had so many trades just on this one pair. I'm even looking at the one here as well. So we had the long, and this was a H4 Mastery trade as well. So we of course had this trade here. So this would have got you roughly, by the time you got out, if you was conservative, you would have got roughly anywhere between 5-ish%, depending on your stop, right? If you was a bit more aggressive, because at this point you was running at 3.7, Worst case, you would have walked away with even like 2.5%, you know, worst case scenario. So there was still the trade there. And then you've got the more aggressive trade, which I would say this particular trade requires a little bit more skill, because it didn't tap the major value area, but you know what it did do? It still hit the range. So going back to that, if we measure this fib, notice how we've tapped perfectly into 90%. But more importantly, we've taken out the low that we need to take out. So you've got your low here, you've got volume accumulation, you can see all the bullish pressure leading into here. This would actually be an example. If someone tried to sell that, I would put them off the sell because of the bullish pressure within the sell structure just to fill this gap. Not worth it. And it's when you're skilled enough to look into the lower time frames, you would go, right, let's actually have a look at it on the 1 hour and see what's going on in here. Well, notice how you've got section 1, section 2, section 3. We tap all of that, look at all of that volatility, the wicks, and then you start looking with the internal structures. You can see, well, look at what we've done. We've failed to go lower. We've broken this low. Everybody's been taken out. And now you can start to see, again, this is Falcon 101. Beautiful entry into the lower time frames. This could be a 15-minute or a 5-minute entry, and you'd be running now around 7%. Now, my instincts would tell me anyone who's in the position would have already been out. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's more of a 6.7-ish trade. And this is at a 10 pip stop. Some people go more aggressive. I tend to not go any lower than 10 because I just don't think it's worth it. Even if you can start justifying 5, it becomes a slippery slope where you start chasing returns. Listen, 3 to 1 is still great. 4 to 1s, 5 to 1s, they're brilliant. I'm not a fan of 1 to 1s and 2 to 1s. That's a whole other story that I've spoken about on the channel. However, every now and again, you're going to get into a good position where it just runs. And if you understand what's happening here, this is literally the perfection of the Falcon system to be able to catch these positions. Look at where it's so simple. Look at the volume. Look at how the volume retests the prior volume that is right here. We sell off, price snaps towards that like a magnet. It's about understanding the intricacies to time the trade. The idea is simple. Again, all of the timing of the trade, that comes from practice, listening to us on a weekly basis on the content. That's why people get it confused. They're like, Mark, I've gone through Falcon Mechanics. I was a member prior and I'm not successful yet. What? Just because you was a member prior and you've gone through Falcon Mechanics, that's not where the value is. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but I'm saying the value is in you actually getting coached and listen, and you're getting my commentary every single week. I think sometimes people get confused what they're paying for. You're not paying for knowledge. Knowledge is everywhere. You can dissect things and you can make things what you want. You're paying for the experience of the knowledge, which happens every single week. So if you're not getting that weekly analysis and that commentary every single week, you're not getting the value. The value is in my interpretation or the coach's interpretation of what is happening here and now, not old price action. Old price action is just to teach you the basics. That's the base layer. The value is in the ongoing support. That's how you become successful. And for some reason, this industry has got that really, really confused. It's never about static knowledge. That's useful, but it's not where you're going to become consistent. So beautiful trades, you know, H4 had 1 hour entries, 5-minute entries. What a great example. So that is trade of the month. Even though it is less return, I think that was a really powerful, simple entry that almost everyone in every time zone could have caught. So let's talk about the topic, which is probably one of the biggest debates in the trading industry, is that what's more important, edge or psychology, or what's the ratio between psychology and edge, etc., etc. Let me just give you something to think about, because you guys know my stance. I believe I'm working on all of them, which is, call me crazy, but I think it's a good idea to work on everything. Anyway, so what I want you to think about is a very important question. Have you ever asked yourself, why is it that you can perform when there's no consequences involved? So if you're on simulated capital or you're on demo money, you can just perform your edge, but as soon as you get onto the live environment, you crumble. Why is that? To me, that's case closed. That proves in and of itself that psychology is important. Forget about ratios, forget about, I'm not even in the business to argue what's more important. all of it is important. Like if you had a phenomenal mindset and your technical skill was level 1 out of 10, you would never make money. Surely that's stating the obvious. You need to work on everything. But what I don't believe is more edge will fix it because of that exact thing. Like think about it. If someone is skilled technically, they have an edge, they've got a trading plan, they have a trading system that works, and on demo they can perform. And what you think overnight, they just forgot their edge. Of course they didn't. It's rubbish. So what happens is the next day, they're now on live capital. They suddenly can't remember anything about their edge. More edge isn't going to fix it because they're psychologically not framed correctly. So they don't know how to manage their emotions. They're not in check. And because of that, before there was no consequences. So whether they won, lost, break even, it didn't matter. Suddenly now that it matters, they don't know how to process that emotionally. And then they revenge trade. They do things they shouldn't do. They mess with their risk management. They move their stop when they shouldn't. All kinds of problems happen. I've been there. You guys have been there. It's very naive for someone to say to you, the reason why you done that, I know you knew your edge prior and everything was all good. And when your real emotions got involved, it was because you forgot your edge. Think about how stupid that is. So it's more about how do you start or begin to understand the importance of how to manage your emotions. I'm not talking about cold showers. I'm not talking about breathing. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about real life stuff that is affecting your trading decisions and affecting your ability to actually make money. Like how much money are you missing out on? How much money have you lost, more importantly, by not gaining control over your emotions? But more so, how much money are you not making by not getting to a level of a profitable mindset? That's something for you to think about. I've got something to share with you. So this is within Rewired. I'm going to give you a few tips that I think could be really useful. I want you to think about those days in which that you just had the best day. Maybe you've taken a really great trade and you're just in a really good state of mind. You don't know why, but you're just in a great state of mind. Everything went well that day. Not just trading, just life in general. Even if there was tough decisions to happen in your life, you just found a way to manage them. And you just, at the end of the day, you looked at it and thought, I had a really good day at all levels. But you failed to replicate that day. And it's just too spontaneous. It might happen 4 times out of the year. There is a direct correlation between whether you'll be successful or not versus how many of those days you can have. The problem is most people have 3 to 4 of those days, and they struggle to have many more than that. Now if you're expecting to be in the top 1%, you want to manage over £100,000 worth of capital, you want to be making ideally 5, 6, £10,000 a month. Do you really think that you can just wander into the top 1% of earners and have a below average mindset, neglect your mindset and work on your mind probably 5% of the time? Like I said before, reading Atomic Habits is not enough. Reading Think and Grow Rich is not enough. Books just give you knowledge. You're not actually getting practical steps that reshapes the way that you think. Because if you just get knowledge, all you're going to do is go, Mark, I read this book. It was a really good book and there were some really interesting topics about it. But guess what? After that book, I'm just the same. Of course you are. You just know about the book. That's it. Go read another book. Guess what? You'll know more about that book and that will be it. You'll still be the same person. So what does it actually do? It just gives you a bit of dopamine that you've read a book and you feel like you're doing the right thing. You just tick boxing. You're not actually changing because no one recognizes you as a different person, do they? They don't go, when was the last time you read a book and someone said, you know what? Ever since you've been reading that book, I don't recognize you. You're this positive, changed person, all these new habits you now have. When have you ever received that feedback? Never. Because it doesn't happen. So you need to learn what makes a difference in you making money, because that's all you really care about, let's be honest. What makes a difference in you making money? It's this. It is your ability to get into the right state. Why is that important? Really simple. When you're in the correct state, just like when you're trading simulated capital where there's no consequences and you can just trade freely, you can actually look at your edge and go, that trade makes sense, that one doesn't, and you're able to just execute. I want you to be there, and the only way that you do that is by getting in this state. Now most of the time you're in that state when there's no consequences, so you need to learn what gets you in that state. Where are most traders? On live capital, or when it's actually important? 1 to a 2. I would say give people the benefit of the doubt, 3 to a 5. So they're close, which is why you still take profitable trades when you're inconsistent. You just do a lot of mess on top of that. But there's a reason why you feel like it's so close, almost within reaching distance. Have you ever felt that way, by the way? You feel like it's right there where you're doing all of the right things, but it just feels like it just slips out your fingers. There's a reason. It's because you failed to get into a 6 to an 8. Now forget about 9 to a 10. That's your perfect days. We don't always have many of those. But a 6 to an 8, that is your profitable zone. You need to know how to get into peak performance. But this is more of a relaxed peak performance. This is where you're unconsciously competent. So you're doing it without thinking. That requires certain processes. I mean, we've got them listed out all here. You go through the processes, you change the way that you think, which means that your habit and your emotional responses to wins, losses, and break-evens will change. And if that changes, that will directly influence whether you make money or not. It's that simple. So my goal when we go through things like Rewired is helping traders learn how they can personally get into a 6 to an 8 consistently. So think of it like this. If I pluck a trader out of thin air and I can teach them how to get to a 6 to an 8 of a mental state every single day throughout the year, or even 90% of the year, hands down, they've now got an unfair advantage over the average trader. They're so far ahead of the average mind who only has the same strategy as them, but they only understand the technical part. That's only going to take you so far. We've not even spoken about you're thinking about your day-to-day life of when you can execute, when everything around you is smooth. Yes, maybe when you don't have chaos in your life, and maybe when nothing is going wrong, you probably could perform your edge without too much mindset training. Chances are there's stuff going on. Family members get ill. Someone can't afford to pay their mortgage in your family, start stressing at you. Someone at work has got loads of problems and they're venting to you. Or you get a little bit financially tight. Or something goes wrong within the house that you weren't expecting to pay for, and then now you have to pay for that and you don't really want to pay for it. Or you get a flat tire, or your insurance premium goes up. Whatever it is, there are things going on outside of your life that are likely going to be affecting you. Then your ability to perform, when you really have to perform, that comes into play, doesn't it? And that starts affecting you. So you realize how costly it is to not have a stable mental framework. Not trading psychology, not cold showers, not wishy-washy shit. I'm talking about the real source that reshapes the way that you think. So your response to wins, losses, break-evens, like I said, is very different. That is your edge. That's when you become the edge. So I want you to start to now think about, what could I do without someone who has not gone through Rewired? What could I do right now to start to write down things that might get me in a better state? If you do that, you already at least start the process of having a more competent mindset to be able to trade profitably. So as we come towards the end of the show, this really is the message of the month. And from me to you, as someone who's serious about this business, serious about being in this space for a very long period of time, and someone who has been in the industry for over 16 years, I can assure you now, November is going to be make or break for you, for this year in particular. I'm telling you, you're not going to save yourself in December. It's too late. People start switching off, businesses start switching off, people start doing different things, the market is a little bit different, closer towards Christmas. But it's about you understanding that you actually can make a massive impact. Yes, maybe you can't turn from being completely inconsistent to profitable in 1 month. But guess what? You can make a massive dent in the right direction. If you don't have your house in order, you can change all of that. Fix up your finances, make sure you get rid of your non-essentials, things that are not really going to help you move forward in life. Stop spending money on things that don't actually benefit you. You could do a massive audit of that. You could clean up your desk space, your room, remove yourself from toxic environments. You could essentially, what my message to you guys is literally grab a sheet of paper and go, right, where am I wasting money? Where am I investing money? And if you're not investing money, why are you not investing into yourself, number one? And why is money, on one hand, actually, that's what you want to think about, because people come to me for advice and I find that they're spending something like, I don't know, like $120 a month on coffee. And then on the other side of it, they've got no education. And then they tell me they want to be a serious trader. Like, come off it. So you're telling me you're prioritizing buying takeaway coffee, sitting on YouTube trying to put pieces together, or TikTok, and you wonder why you're not trading 6 figures yet. like, come off it. You're not serious. And if you want to be serious, you've got to put skin in the game. There's a reason why when people get things for free, you don't treat it the same way. If someone gives me something for free, I wouldn't treat it the same way. If you give someone a free membership to the gym, they're not going to go. Like, it doesn't work that way, because your mind knows how to process when I have paid for something, I need to utilize it. That's why when you pay for something of quality, you take it more serious, you get more benefit out of it. That has always been tried and true in almost anything. You take good care of things that you put valuable resources into. That's always been the case. So I would make a big audit of that, and I would just put November plan. Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? What do I want to have? What position could I be proud of myself when it comes to December and I start auditing my whole year? Even if I've not had the best year, what could I at least do in November to make sure that I'm at least set up so I can salvage the year, knowing I'm making the right steps and doing the right thing, and whatever has happened has happened. I can at least move forward into the next year knowing I'm already set. I'm not that person that starts setting New Year's resolutions on the 1st of January and then gives up 2 weeks into the year. I don't identify as that type of individual. I am now going to move, behave, and think like a top 1% person. And how you do it is by following that plan. So I really hope you take this on board. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I've absolutely loved filming it. It's going to get more and more creative, but if you really take these things on board, I'm telling you, this is the final dance. It's going to be a make or break for you for this year. Maybe not for the rest of your life, but if you really want to make sure you finish 2024 in the best possible way, please take this serious. You will thank me for it.